This week's epic adventure takes us to downtown Portsmouth, New Hampshire, to a beautiful federal-style brick building, home of the Portsmouth Historical Society. We could be here to learn about the rich history made in the area, but instead, we came to enjoy a recent exhibit by a group of furniture artisans who are literally making history in the form of handmade fine furniture, the New Hampshire Furniture Masters. And we had the rare treat to hear directly from each of the artisans themselves, their motivations, intent, and technique behind their latest amazing work. Enjoy.
I'm so excited to start off this evening with one of the greats. This is Ted Blatchley, and we've got a nice Demi-lune here. Why don't you tell us more about it, Ted?
Okay, this is a Demi-lune that I first made, this design was first made around 1997 for the New Hampshire Furniture Masters exhibit and auction. And it was made in Babinga, and since then I've made 6 others in different woods, Clara walnut, and this is East Indian rosewood. And it's a little higher than a normal pier table. It's 33 inches. And that allows me to get a nice, long, graceful leg. And it's got a satinwood detail here that I'm accentuating the joint in order to get curvature this way and this way. I needed thick material. So there's actually a structural joint behind this satinwood spline that joins the 2 pieces at an angle. And then so I decided to, like I say, accentuate it. So I worked in another spline there of the
Beautiful.
satinwood.
I love this is, Ted's been a strong influence to me on pillowing work, so you can blame Ted, and Jerry Osgood, and he was the one who got you going in that, right?
Well, yeah, I certainly was influenced by him. I think early on I liked the work of Sam Maloof, and he also had curved surfaces as well as sharp edge surfaces.
Yeah.
And with Jerry's work, it was a little more subtle.
Yeah.
And I started to appreciate that.
Like you have this beautiful, I don't know if the camera could pick it up, but the subtle curvature, it's like these panels that make up the apron here are curved in this dimension and this way too. Is that right, Ted?
Yes. Yeah.
And your legs have that nice curvature to it, but this one, rather than being pillowed, you have a little kind of a facet or ridge along the front line.
Yeah, it's like a crease in a pair of pants, and it's a winding facet where it's tighter at the bottom and then sort of spreads out.
Oh yeah.
As it goes up, and so these are all subtle things you might not pick up on initially, but I think they're worth it to pursue.
That's beautiful. Thanks so much, Ted.
Sure.
All right. Here's another guy who may be familiar to you. We've got Tim Coleman. Probably seen him in Fine Woodworking and on Instagram. Right?
Sure.
Tell us about this little table, Tim.
This one is special. I had a workshop in a building that used to manufacture letter and number steel stamps. And I would find them around the building and started collecting them, and realized that first started playing around with letters and numbers, just stamping impressions in the wood, and trying to make patterns with the letters and numbers. And then I realized I could alter the stamps by heating them up to take the temper out, and then working them with files and stones, honing stones. So this little crescent shape is one that I made from, I don't know what the letter was previously.
So these are individually punched, and how do you get the contrast? What's the coloring?
So after I do all the stamping and the carving, I'm carving these lines
Oh,
with
yeah.
the V carving tool.
Yep.
I seal the surface with a sanding sealer, a lacquer type sanding sealer.
Yep.
And then I will spray a coat of black lacquer.
Nice.
And then using a card scraper, scrape it back so that it just stays in the
that's
carved
brilliant.
and stamped
Yeah,
work.
what a great idea.
So it was a lot of experimentation to figure out the sealing process.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want is for the pigment to go into the wood and then wick beneath the surface.
So what do you spray? 1 or 2 coats of sanding sealer?
Three coats.
3 coats of sanding sealer. Then when you spray the lacquer,
really light.
you spray a light lacquer because that's enough to get the black in there.
It doesn't take much.
That's very clever. Nice. What about the base?
And so turned legs with this nice little ball on top of the leg.
Yeah.
And I'm not a wood turner. I don't have a lathe.
Oh,
I have a wood turner that I work with.
Oh,
who's
okay.
Excellent.
Nice.
He's so precise at what he does. And
That's great.
so I haven't needed to learn how to turn.
No. Well, yeah, why not? Get somebody to do it. That's so nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Well,
it's a fun little table.
You've got another piece here.
I do.
Let's check that out while we're
Okay.
with you. Check this little round table. Breakfast table.
Yeah,
huh?
I call it a breakfast table just because the scale of it. It's 38 inches diameter.
Yep.
And in fact, I had a customer come in when this was just finished in the shop, and she wanted a dining table and loved the base of this, but wanted a 58-inch diameter dining table. And this is 38, but the height doesn't change.
Right.
But to scale the base for a larger table, we were able to do it, and it actually looks, they each have their own character.
Yeah, it's more of an angle, lay down.
Just more splayed out.
Scissor
but
type.
I like working with just very simple shapes.
Yeah.
These are not complicated shapes. They're very leaf-like.
Yeah.
I like, or blade-like.
Right.
And then the way they gather in the center, there's basically a little post that they all join into with an arrangement of tenons.
Yep.
So that little post in the center really just ties everything together.
That's the key.
Plus there's a ring that also ties the top of the legs together.
And the way you've got the joinery, the way you glued up your top, or is that veneer?
It's veneer.
Okay.
It's veneer on a solid wood substrate.
Oh, sweet.
So this pattern, all these kind of long tapering shapes of this figured maple pieced together as a sheet, and then I glue the whole thing to the solid wood substrate, which with the grain direction, all these pieces, the grain runs largely in the same direction.
Yeah.
So that's why by using a solid substrate, then I can shape the edge without having to edge band it.
It's running the same as the substrate.
Yep.
It's really great though, those tapered shapes, how much visual interest you get with that, and why not do it? I mean, I'm always making the straight joint.
I know.
But it's such a sweet decorative joint. You really don't waste much if you use the other half of it somewhere else.
That's right.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What about these? This is a special event because it's near Christmas, and some makers brought in little odds and ends to sell. And you've got these sweet ornaments that are reflective of some of your work.
That's right. So basically I'm creating my own plywood to create these. So it's a 3-ply arrangement with the veneer on both sides and then a center core piece. And just playing with different shapes. I have maybe 5 or 6 different shapes that I repeat, but they're all hand drawn, and so they each have their own character. They're not precise. The lines are
awesome.
just lively.
That's awesome.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. That was fun as always.
Okay, we have Richard Odell with us, and he has the piece that actually has the honor of being on the postcard and promotion for this event here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Why don't you tell us about this great piece, Rich?
So this all started as a sort of an experiment with different textures and different shapes and different tactile feels. You've got a whole study in contrasts here. You've got a very rare wood, which is rosewood, and then you've got a very common wood, which is ash. You've got a very sculpted surface here and a very, very smooth curve on the outside of this. So the entire thing is just all of these contrasts, and you can see from not only this piece, but the piece in back of it, that I like contrasts.
Yeah.
Contrasts are my thing. And if we sort of move over to that one, I can talk a little bit about the sorts of coloration and the starburst of the Macassar ebony on here. Again, with a very, very light wood. This happens to be birch. Again, a very expensive wood, a very inexpensive wood. And the legs are cherry and ebonized cherry. So they're cherry, the red of the cherry shows through and supports this whole top.
That's great.
It's really fun, and I love making these. This is just such a fun thing to do.
We've got time, actually. Richard has 3 pieces at this exhibit. This sweet little side table.
So this you can see is a different sort of starburst. Again, all the pieces lead into the center of this tabletop, but in this case, there's a burled maple surround. And then on the bottom of it is gilded with 23 karat gold. These little rings around the bottom and the more of this maple burl. It actually came into form because I had a client down in Virginia who really wanted this for a side table, and I ended up making it for the side table. It was too big for what they wanted, so it's here.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So it's available, right? It's amazing, those columns, they're veneered as well, right?
Yes, they're all veneered.
I mean, they look like almost granite, don't they? The way they, with that beautiful color.
Yeah, it really is fun.
And I think if someone wants to know, was it the method for applying that gilding, did you just have an article in the journal?
I did.
In the journal, the Guild of New Hampshire Woodworkers, if you're a member of the guild, and you can live anywhere in the country and join that guild, you can find out how to apply that gilding in this recent issue of their journal magazine. That's sweet. That's a little pricey, isn't it?
A little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much for like a leaf of gilding?
Oh, a leaf of the gold leaf, which is 3 1/4 inches square, cost about $4.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not terrible, but the problem is that you can't just sort of make it glom on. So you use a whole bunch of this stuff without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I just did a picture frame with gilding on it.
Yeah.
And I expected to use about 4 of them, and I used 12 of them.
Oh my God.
So it's like, okay, that was a more expensive frame than I thought. But it is really fun.
Oh man, it's so good. I love what you did there.
I'm so glad.
Got that
Well,
fan.
you know, the one of the things I like the best about this
Yeah.
is if you come around this side, you can see where that comes through.
Oh yeah, nice. I didn't see the
the
through
back
tenon.
end,
Yeah.
the through tenon.
So that is a solid piece of rosewood.
It is. It is a solid piece of rosewood.
That's not inexpensive either.
No.
So.
Actually, that came from a barn in upstate New York. It was 70 years old when I bought it.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago.
Oh wow. That's awesome. So these are like staved construction.
Yeah,
Son.
they're actually everything's. This is 52 separate laminations
Whoa.
that go together.
That's intense.
And then each of the laminations
yeah,
is wide at the top, narrow in the middle, and wide
Oh
at the
my
bottom.
gosh. Wow. You really outdid yourself there. Now I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, that grain just
All of-
hides it
that's-
so
that's-
well.
That's why the grain looks the way it does.
Yeah. Beautiful job. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks for the bonus content. Okay, we're here with Lynn Szymanski, and she's got this incredible, very contemporary table. What can you tell us about this, Lynn?
This table that actually is, the wood is, I believe, a honey locust. It was sold to me as ash
Really?
by my shop neighbor, Roger Meyers, and fellow
Oh, really?
master. He told me it was ash, but it didn't work like ash. It didn't really look like ash. And then he did more research, and then he told me that it was called honey locust.
Oh, it sounds more exotic that
Yeah,
way.
and then I've been dyeing a lot of the wood, a lot of my wood lately, dark black, and I used a finish my other shopmate Matt Wada told me about, which I don't think I'll use again on a dark wood because it looks a little milky. It's a marine varnish, and I can't remember. It's like a urethane.
It looks nice.
So
I love the contrast. So you've got like this darker, almost ebonized
yeah.
honey locust, and then is that walnut? No.
No, this is basswood that I have a rust solution
Oh.
that I used on it.
Look at this.
Give it a rusted.
Hey,
And
that's rust finish.
it's a rust finish, yes.
Most people try to avoid rust, but
So yes, it's a rust finish that I kind of buffed out. So
that's
it kind
awesome.
of has a little texture to it.
It almost
And
looks
yeah,
metallic, but it does have a warm brown
So yeah,
color as
so
well.
this is all basswood.
Yeah. Now, what's behind this? At first, I thought, wow, that almost looks like an abstract keyboard or something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
does look like a keyboard. Actually, in my sketchbook, I was thinking I had like a tiered hull table with different layers of this kind of striated strips. And at the time I was thinking about rice paddies because I spent a lot of time in Bali.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so they have a lot of like
Yeah.
tiered rice paddies that go down the mountain. And so that's kind of where it started. And I still want to make a table like that, like a hull table like that is all tiered,
Yeah.
various levels. But this is where I started.
That's
so.
awesome. And it looks like you've scuffed through the finish a little
Yeah,
bit
it's
too.
just milk paint with scuffed up a little bit. And then it's a basic hull pencil legs because I really want the focus to be on the surface rather than the form on this.
It's very clean and contemporary.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Thanks.
Okay, we've got someone who's probably familiar to you, my friend and neighbor, David Lamb, and he's got this sweet little cabinet. So what can you tell us about this, Dave?
Well, it is a sweet little cabinet. It's about as simple as you can get, but it's a real great standard little dovetailed hanging wall cabinet. It's hanging on the wall with a simple French cleat, which is a real nice system. Very nice, delicate crown molding in curly maple. The entirety is curly maple. The inside is a wonderful veneered panel of bird's eye maple.
That's heavy.
And if the camera lady would like to show the back,
I'm sure she would.
the beautiful contrast of the blue. Historically,
That's sweet.
especially like in Salem, Boston, and Portsmouth, robin's egg blue or some form of blue was typically used as a background color because it makes everything jump. So I thought it'd be fun to do that.
That's so nice.
And then the cover of the door, the face of the door,
Wow.
is the frost pattern that I do. It's framed in cherry, and then the frost is actually birch, white birch crotch in a fractal pattern.
It's so nice. And the way you got it framed, it almost simulates a mutton window.
Right.
So there's like
a sash, yeah.
The frost on the glass.
Exactly. And I thought it was very appropriate for this winter's exhibition.
Oh, that's so nice. What a beauty, as usual.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, camera lady.
We have a special treat. We have Leah Woods with us, who runs the woodworking program at UNH, University of New Hampshire. And she's also been, I won't say a long time, but you've been a pretty long time member of the New Hampshire Furniture Masters as well, right?
I have.
Yeah, I'm thinking back of all the catalogs I've seen you work in. So it's great to have a chance to see your work. Tell us about this great piece.
For the last couple years, I've been thinking about what are the most important and interesting aspects of woodworking to me. And I realized that they're bent lamination and coopering. And so I've been focusing on those two techniques and essentially trying to figure out how far can I push it.
Wow. So it's a very sculptural piece. I love it. I mean, you're creating all these laminated curves, and then there's some technical challenges here, just coopering, as you said, and then arranging them in this sculptural way. Do you start out with like the vision of what the finished piece is going to be, or do you just kind of use the different forms and assemble as you go?
I made a series of pieces about this size, and I thought about them as almost like sketches that could potentially be translated into a larger piece if that made sense, which is one direction I've gone. But what I'm finding is that I'll look at some of the molds. I've saved all of the bent lamination molds that I've made over the years, so now I have about 50.
Yeah, I got that problem too.
And so now I find myself looking at the mold and the curve that I can make with that mold, and then I'll just start making a bunch of laminations in that same curve, and so it's a really fun process of the super labor-intensive bent lamination and veneering and cleaning up the laminations. And then, after all of that work, then I feel like I can work very intuitively and spontaneously to look at the curves and in the moment figure out what I want the angle to be and the shape. And I just start putting pieces together with masking tape, and the curves, it's almost like the curves start dictating the form that it wants to be.
That's so cool. Tell me about the color choices. You've got, is it all the same wood here that you're staining differently, or?
All the veneer comes pre-dyed. I get it from Certainly Wood.
Oh, okay.
And the gray is Koto, which is a species that I had not been familiar with, but I'm not positive about the black, but the orange and the blue, and then there's a darker blue on the backside here, that's all dyed poplar.
That's so cool. Well, that's such a great piece. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks.
We have now Jeff Cooper, who is known for, I don't know, would you say whimsical?
You could say that.
Yeah, but he does beautiful carvers, quite often appealing to children, and also a variety of other work. But tell us about this beautiful little table and chair set.
I like doing things that are fun, imaginative, and a narrative quality to it. So I first started making these animal chairs when my daughter was young. It's hard to believe she's 36 now.
Oh.
And over all these years, I think I've made about 120 different ones. So this set is a matched pair of giraffes. You notice they're posed opposite to each other as a mirror image. One is a little taller, a little darker, one's a little daintier, so I'm thinking of them as a matched pair. The tabletop, I have this nice veneered design, which is kind of random, kind of like the way a kid's mind works. So, I think it tells a story. It's the kind of thing that'll really engage somebody. And the kids who have them love them and name them. And it's just, a lot of fun. And it's been kind of cool to do it over the years. There's a lot of them in children's hospitals and maternity wards in different places and in some libraries. And so that's been a lot of fun for me over the years.
It's so great. I mean, it's beautiful work, but it makes you smile, So it's just tremendous. You have a real gift for that.
Well, the methods have changed over the years because, without going into how I used to do the spots, the way I do them now is I stain the whole giraffe and then carve through the stain to create the lines.
Oh yeah.
So it has a very tactile feeling.
Oh
to it.
yeah,
You
I
see,
love
these are all
that. Yeah,
engraved.
yeah, yeah.
So
I
when you
see
touch
that.
it, you feel them.
That's
as
a
well.
terrific method. So it's like a lighter color. Is that maple or?
It's birch.
Birch. Okay.
I use birch whenever I'm coloring things.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like to use, leave as much as possible a hand tool.
Yeah, I love that
So it's
about
a
you.
combination of where it's been sanded,
Yeah.
and the top of the horns here,
Oh, yeah.
hand tooled.
So nice. Wow. Thank you so much, Jeff. That's exquisite. So we're back with Ted Blatchley, and he has this gorgeous music stand also on display here. Why don't you tell us some about this, Ted?
Well, again, this is another piece that I've repeated. I've made this 3 times. And the first one was made for Allison Frisbee, who was the daughter of John Frisbee, who used to be the director of the New Hampshire Historical Society. And she's a viola player and was 17 years old at the time. And they brought her out to my shop, and she set up a metal music stand with the proper angle and height. And I talked with her about what she liked, and she said she liked cherry, and then said, we'll leave the rest up to you.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I think it's a successful sculptural form by itself.
So
It
elegant.
was made specifically for her, the height and all, but I thought it was worth repeating.
So nice. I know people are going to ask, do you have plans you want to sell for this? Have you ever done this in fine woodworking or anything like that? Not that you have.
There's a lot of other detail that goes into it. There's so much detail that goes into it. I
can see
sort of
it.
spell out
No, I know.
everything that's involved.
Like these little curved, are these maple or is that
That's
also?
ash, bent
Ash.
laminated ash, and
Yeah, see the laminations there where you got what, 1/8-inch laminations, and then I see your sweet pillowing there, soft
Yeah.
little subtle. Everything else is cherry. It looks like.
yeah. This upper desk part took quite a long time to map out the joinery. There's little tenons that go in here, and fitting these angles, and fitting this in here. There's a spline that joins them together
sure.
inside.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun, and to do this stuff, the full-scale drawing is really important.
Yeah. There's almost no straight lines on it. I mean, we have that, but then you see the outsides curve. The top has a soft little arc to it, and then you have this shape here. And of course, the legs have a sweet, graceful bend. Is that the legs are solid?
The legs are solid, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think in looking for material, I was looking for a wood grain that had a little bit of curvature to it.
Yeah.
When I was selecting boards, so you get that grain continuity.
Yeah. And again, like your other piece, you have that kind of faceted, and then it melts away into softly rounded over. Beautiful.
Yeah, some of these details they get tweaked and reused, and part of the language, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, we know who this guy is because he's wearing a name tag. This is Roger Meyers, but he's got another music stand here, just exquisite, beautiful, but I'll let him describe it. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I do quite a few music stands in a couple of different styles, but this is got a beautiful quilted maple backdrop here, surrounded with Macassar ebony, and Macassar ebony on the surround of the desk. The column itself is curly maple, and again a Macassar ebony base here. It's adjustable, and of course, in both height and tilt. And music stands have been something that's been real popular, and I've done quite a few of them, typically in the federal style or federal inspired. And I've been fortunate that I've had clients all over the world buying the music stands.
Really?
Yeah, I've got.
So you ship them and
Yeah, they're nice because they don't take a lot of space when you crate them. So I've sent them to London and Switzerland and
really?
yeah.
Wow. I've never had any clients in Switzerland or.
Yeah.
You got a little adjustment knob here.
Right,
so
that's for the height, and then on the back here, there's another adjustment for the tilt.
Yeah.
And if I'm making a custom one, most of the ones that I make, of course, are custom, then what I'll do is I'll ask the client, what's the nominal height that you would like it at? Because if you're seated, you know, a guitar player who's seated, you know, or a trumpet player who's standing, they're going to have different things. And something else I do on all the custom music stands is around the desk, on the desk here, between the cross banding and the field, I will put in some custom banding that typically has the client's favorite piece of music embedded in it.
Oh, wow. That's over the top.
So that really makes it a unique, one of a kind
Yeah.
for that client.
So you talked about the wood types, yeah, the Macassar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And quilted maple
So you got some solid Macassar?
on the surround here as well.
Wow.
And the back of the stand is exactly the same as the front. So if you were to turn this around, you'd see the same image on the back.
Wow, that's just
Because
gorgeous.
of course, when you're playing, this is covered with music, but
Right.
the people you're playing for can enjoy the back of it.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
But that quilted really comes alive.
I can imagine this hexagonal hull is challenging.
It's done by splitting the column, okay, when the column is still round and turned. And split the column and create the two halves, bring it back together. And then a lot of the columns that I do, not this one here, but a lot of the ones I do, I'll have full inlay all the way down the column too. So there'll be stringing or an inlay on it.
Wow.
And then I do this type of bass, and I also do a saber foot bass. This one here is particularly popular with, I've got some harp players that buy this, and they really like this type of bass here. It complements the harps.
Sure. Oh, man. It's so nice. It makes me want to build one right now.
Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much,
Oh, it's
Ryder.
good.
All right. We're back with Jeff Cooper, and he's got another table here. Tell us about this one, Jeff.
Well, this table started with a piece of pear wood that I got from Jerry Osgood's collection. It's really thick, it has this live edge in this beautiful color. And then at the end of it was this one piece here that had all these flaws and spaces inside. But it was just too beautiful to throw out. So I'm living with these two pieces in my shop for a long time, thinking, what am I going to do with them? And one day I'm seeing the flaws in this block here seem to suggest layered hillsides.
Yeah.
The way a Chinese painting might be.
Yeah.
So I made it a very Chinese-inspired design with a little house and the road that goes back into the landscape. So it's called Long Road Home. If you can see it, there's a little guy pushing a wheelbarrow by a house. And the road goes by, and in my imagination, I saw this as a mine or a cave and this little house here. But the trees are very much in a Chinese style also. So,
And the frame is walnut with.
This is the cherry, this is walnut, and this is birch.
Oh, okay.
So with the Chinese styling in mind, I'm thinking, well, how am I going to mount it? And then I'm looking and I'm thinking about the gongs that they have. That, So I mounted it very much in the style of a pavilion or a gong. And it tells the story of this guy who has this long talk home. And now we're looking at the other side. The road actually continues and follows here and comes down to a fishing village with another tree in the same size and little houses here and a guy out in a boat. So in my mind, I'm thinking that's his brother. He's going home to the fishing village from his place in the countryside. So I think this is another example of how I like to do things in a narrative that tell a story in your imagination and engage somebody creatively. And also being influenced by lots of things that I'm seeing in different places, like memories of our trip to China where we saw paintings and landscapes that look like that.
That's so great. And it almost wants to be in the middle of the room like this. Thank you so much, Jeff. That's awesome.